Okay, pardon me. So, I was watching this. It's pretty interesting. I didn't know what to expect. I figured there'd be references to actual earthquakes and information about them. And they started off by talking about an earthquake that occurred at this earthquake, Loma Prieta, here, which is here's San Francisco. Here is Loma Prieta. Here, notably along this kind of structure here, perhaps on the inside of it. I haven't looked that much into it, but apparently this earthquake sent energy that basically went to this region, I believe. I believe it was, yeah, Marina District to this region. And then I believe it was over here or somewhere over in Oakland. Oakland, maybe? Like this. And apparently this way. So, like, in a way where it didn't really cause like earthquakes everywhere, but like damage everywhere, but damage was really focused in those two locations. I found that really interesting in terms of like what's going on, and just the thought before, like as I started watching this, it occurred to me like the explosiveness of it. It's reminiscent of this just like standard operating procedure maybe of a nova, like the same mechanism but a different scale. So it occurred to me, what if like, because essentially my thought, the way I see things is that there are pillar structures that form between layers that fill in with a less dense matrix around the pillar structure, but is filled in, but then like sometimes, or it can just be uniform, but sometimes what happens is a physical sphere particle type structure occurs because of the way currents are like funneling through, or maybe, pardon me, funneling through a point in the region. And so maybe there is, what my thought is like eddies occur like here. There's a bunch of eddies right here that produce a bunch of little divots and then volcanoes. So it's a thing that happens not just there but also in this magnetic field structure from Yellowstone, which is here up this way and this way, where there's a row of volcanoes especially prominent there that goes onward, but like up, it's to here. So even though it continues upward, like it's especially prominent in this stretch where there's just these volcanoes, snow-capped nodes that are the results of a magnetic field's interaction with another current that's generally cutting this way. And so it's really probably where the current is most focused. I'm not sure. Pardon me for, because there's a current coming down here, but it may be like dividing and going over here. Like the current that doesn't go through this magnetic field is kind of brought over this way, maybe. I don't know, but besides the point. Maybe I can find some particles real quick. Kind of like how as occur on these systems where there can be a physical particle. This particle exploded and became this like this. And then its currents traveled down like a preferential path where they then reached a point where they could be energetically propagated in a way that was pronounced, perhaps, this particle. So this one gets kind of like flattened, but it's almost like it's removing a shell, and then within it is another layer of just a smaller, subtler particle. But this one's, that was maybe like the boundary of a particle that was kind of here. It must be just sculpting spheres to like elongated systems, and then at some point breaking the elongated systems off so that they like splatter on the wall, or they literally start to spray out the particle. I know. I know it sounds ridiculous, or even like this. Here's a sideways pillar. A shallogram. I know I'm just saying things in some ways, but but so my thought is, maybe what if like this earthquake here was a nova event of a particle that was basically being squished by the upper layer, that's just kind of, its weight is not evenly distributed. It's more distributed on these like nodes that are kind of supporting the region, and so it like decays to a new stable equilibrium by emitting an ejectile of like energy that propagates along a preferential path, that is where the currents can basically flow, which is between the boundaries, is where it's easiest for the current to flow, so it does. But then it reached, this is my interpretation to a degree, I'm just figured I'd throw this out there, but it's not that important. But in essence, it reaches this like inlet, because essentially like it's San Francisco Bay, and just San Francisco as it is exists because there's a physical current flowing in here, and then it like hits resistance but branches up this way and manages to flow in, and probably even like contributes to holding a boundary here, this current flowing in. And so like it's an inlet path for energy to propagate, whereas like down here is not an inlet path like this is. This is an inlet path, so as soon as it reaches the inlet path for the energy to propagate into perhaps empty space where it's kind of destable, not as stable over here, and so as over like the pressure of over here perhaps made the energy propagate into, rather than like trying to go this way and going like out to the ocean. So the energy went that way, probably because the currents were flowing that way. to begin with. Like, had they been going this way, they would have carved pathways, but it's almost like the wrong way because of the paths of the currents. So it essentially is caused to flow this way, and then it balloons into this region, it seems. So, like, that's where this energy seems to propagate, at least to a degree, and then it kind of dies off. But, like, maybe it would have gone up here and then over here, and then if with a strong enough energetic propagation up here, over here, up here, over here, and, like, into this region, then maybe up here, over here, or even up to this thing, I don't know. This, like, node. I don't know. Then there was this earthquake they talked about, which was pretty crazy to hear. I didn't even realize that the city of San Francisco was pretty much destroyed entirely in 1906. Not even that long ago. An earthquake that led to a fire that just destroyed the city. Which then got rebuilt in ways, but that's crazy to think that there was literally a city destroyed there, and we rebuilt there. Although it may be like stabilizing. That's the thing, is these earthquakes may actually be like towards equilibrium more, essentially. So maybe like they don't have the outcomes that are predicted by geology in general, by plate tectonics. Not geology, because geology is the expanding Earth, and everything about the Earth is geology. Plate tectonics is a theory within the discipline of the study of the Earth that it is not geology. It's an interpretation of geology. The expanding Earth model, that's geology. Pardon me. Oh no. Okay, okay. Then, interestingly, this this documentary brings up, after that, it goes to, I believe this was Mexico City. Yep, okay. Mexico City, which, then, let's go there, was here, is here. So there's this current coming down here. Down this way. Along this region, basically, along here. And then there's this another current coming around the like mass that built up here, that then preferentially goes down this way, in essence. And that current crosses, especially, it seems like, at a like boundary down here. Maybe more like generally flowing across, just like these are like the undercurrents, but an overcurrent was more just across this whole width. I was just fanning out. Or vice versa. But so like that there's an earthquake there. I didn't know what to make of it. Honestly, I was half watching as I was listening, so I might have to rewatch this or just keep watching earthquake related things to really get an idea of what this might suggest, especially this one, since I don't. But then they went on to talk about, of all places, Gujarat, where I've been talking about since like June pretty much, and which is here, like this boundary, generally speaking. And the earthquake was at Bouge here. I thought it was over here. That's interesting. It was like right at the heart of this mass. Right at the heart of it, like its nucleus radioactively decayed, and because of the pressure of the overlying weight on the region as a whole, to a point where it like compacted, it fell down energetically, like dropped, pushing material out. But that event was like earthquake causing in this region. That seems feasible to me, that there's things of that nature going on. This region just looks really unsupported even. Like it's probably got a support here, it looks like. It must have a support here. It's really held over here. And then it's got a support down here. I guess around here. Maybe here. But then like within it, it's just like a tabletop. Up here though is like there was an earthquake here to close this off, which is probably just this region like dropping into that depression in the underlying region pretty much, but then this elevating. So some like equivalent of that, because essentially this elevated and this didn't drop, which is kind of interesting. Maybe because like the underlying crust is rebounding. That makes sense to me. Like it's vibrating to a degree, and it just it like the weight pushed down below equilibrium, and now it's like re-stabilizing with a upward motion of this like mass, even though it would seem like this should have fallen. Or they just describe it that way because it's relative to this region. But I really think they would have described it as a drop in this region alone and not an upwelling of their. So and then there's the New Madrid fault line. Which is here. Now on, let's see. Let's just see, I haven't really looked. Let's just get an actual coordinate. 36.5, 89.5. 36. 89.5, 30. It may be that it's just not supported really. Like these are the support pillars, like right here, and it kind of had a lot of water running over top it, like a lot of water. This region does not just have the Mississippi that ran over it. It had like the drainage of this entire width of current that was draining over top it. So it's highly likely to have pushed down and just like really stressed the seeming situation that there's not much of a support structure in this region. Maybe there's something of that nature going on. I'd have no idea what the fault is considered to like constitute. Like that's kind of odd. That's way more like what I was just saying than a fault line. Like this. Okay, that's an earthquake threat. Okay. Is it on the map though? Like, do we know? Maybe images is not the best place. Let's go with the Wikipedia. It's probably based off of earthquakes and never a site of an actual fault. Because it's even called the seismic zone. Since 1812, frequent smaller earthquakes have been recorded in the area. Oh dear God. Oh dear God. Let's find faults. Faults are embedded in a subsurface real foot rift during the Cambrian. Yeah. Oh dear Lord. All right, I'll be back.